Well, hello. My name is Angelle Wood, and this is Crime of the Truest Kind. I talk about Massachusetts and New England crime stories. It is October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to put it in our collective consciousness. And I want to talk about domestic violence awareness and prevention all of the time. It's a way to help others recognize what it is and how insidious that it can really be. It is a lot more than bruises and black eyes. Thank you to our new patrons, Solid Gold, Nora L., Total Gem, Ted N., Wicked Cool, Angela C., Daisy May, Gretchen B., thank you. And as always, my superstar EP, Lisa Gaylord McColgan. Yeah, I think that's her middle name. I haven't had time to update the merch store with the new things. I may be able to pull it off before the live show at the Burn in Somerville, Mass. This Thursday, October 23rd. I'm covering many cases from the Cambridge and Somerville area. An update on Charlene Roseman's case. We remember Janet Downing. I share the story of Trang Ho, Jane Britton, missing woman Amy Scher, unsolved case of Julie Campbell, Deanna Kremen, Ada Bean. I'd like to fit in as many as we can. I'm working on the presentation that starts around 7, and then I will save some time for a Q&A at the end of the show. I must say a thank you to Kelly T. I respect your anonymity, for Kelly's help with research. It takes me a long time to find the right information that I want for each episode, and Kelly really helped me out for this episode and is helping me out with the upcoming Crimes of Camberville show. My goal is to become more efficient in research and writing so I can turn episodes around much more quickly. You will find everything about the show at crimeofthetruestkind.com. Everything that I talk about in this episode will be linked in the episode page there. And you can buy tickets to the Somerville show, crimeofthetruestkind.com. Today we go to Waltham, Massachusetts, and I share the story of Jennifer Martel, a young mom murdered in her home by someone who claimed to love her. There are so many red flags in this case in terms of the perpetrator. And because of Jennifer Martel's case, the state of Massachusetts had to review and reevaluate how they deal with domestic violence cases. This is episode 94. Waltham, Massachusetts, the watch city, because of the role the Waltham Watch Company played as a global leader in the watch industry. They produced more than 40 million precision watches in their lifetime until it closed in 1957. A small city of 65,000, located about 14 miles west of Boston. When I say that, I map from Logan Airport. Home to 2 universities, Brandeis, private research university with a liberal arts focus, on a sprawling 225-acre campus. It should come as a surprise to no one that I lived near Brandeis in Waltham. Undergrad enrollment in the fall of 2024 was 3,600. And of course, I always wonder how much a university like this costs. I got Brandeis tuition and fees totaling $71,000 per year. There's a long list of notables who attended Brandeis, like Jonathan Landau, Bruce Springsteen's manager, Deborah Messing, who starred in Will and Grace, Marta Kaufman, co-creator and executive producer of Friends, along with David Crane. The two met at Brandeis when they were cast in a student production of Tennessee Williams' Camino Reel. And Marta is also behind the show Grace and Frankie on Netflix. I think I watched that series twice already. Robert Reich, who served in 3 national administrations, including as Secretary of Labor under President Clinton. He was professor of social and economic policy at Brandeis University's Heller Graduate School. He was also on the faculty at Harvard and UC Berkeley. Another name whose tenure at Brandeis spans decades is Anita Hill. So this is about to get really history-y. That is a word, I just made it up. In 1991, Anita Hill testified before Congress in a second round of hearings that fall. She had spoken privately about sexual harassment she endured, often very graphic, while working with Clarence Thomas, who, at this time, was the Supreme Court nominee. Her private conversations led to an FBI investigation, and Anita Hill was subpoenaed to come to Washington, D.C. To quote a story by Nina Totenberg for NPR in 2018, but the main event was Hill versus Thomas. Sex and Lies, set to the tune of American racial stereotypes. Two African-American Yale Law School graduates from poor rural backgrounds, she spoke with quiet dignity, reciting the indignities she testified were visited upon her. He talked about pornographic materials depicting individuals with large penises or large breasts involved in various sex acts, she said. On several occasions, Thomas told me graphically of his own sexual prowess. Thomas called it a national disgrace, a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves. I had to look up deign. I didn't know what it meant. D-E-I-G-N. Do something that one considers to be beneath one's dignity. I understand it to be language from the Jim Crow era. Anita Hill's treatment by these congresspeople was nothing short of appalling. She was accused of all the things, making it up, using the plot to a horror movie, and being an angry black woman out for revenge. You know, like today. On October 15th, 1991, Clarence Thomas was confirmed 52-48, the narrowest margin in more than a century. He sits on the Supreme Court today. It sure is telling where we were then. As a result of her testimony, Congress did pass a law extending protections for people who experience sexual harassment, like Anita Hill testified about. Anita Hill carried on, continuing to advocate for sexual assault survivors. She teaches social policy, law, women's gender and sexuality studies, and David R. Pawcross Professor of Law and Social Policy. In 2015, Anita Hill was appointed University Professor, Brandeis's most prestigious academic honor. She has 15 honorary degrees and fellowship awards. Thank Anita Hill today. 2 miles away is Bentley, whose student alumni includes Arthur T. Demoulas. Arthur, the T for Telemachus Demoulas, CEO of Demoulas Supermarkets, best known as Market Basket, where you get more for your dollar. Arthur T., the T is important to differentiate him from his cousin Arthur S. Anyway, Artie T is a bit of a folk hero around here and beloved by his loyal staff. Market Basket has close to 100 grocery stores around New England and employs thousands of people. Back in June of 2014, Artie T was fired by the board of directors. In response to his firing, several top managers resigned, and hundreds of members of the Market Basket staff protested. Loyal customers boycotted the stores. Warehouse team members and drivers refused to make deliveries, which, as you would imagine, left the store shelves pretty bare. Barer, or more bare, than the shelves when we get a French toast alert. That's a winter storm warning, folks. You get all the bread, all the eggs, all of the milk. In August of 2014, after months of protests, Demoulas Supermarkets Inc. shareholders reached an agreement to sell the remaining 50.5% shares of the company to Arthur T. Demoulas for $1.5 billion. People went back to work, people went back to shopping there, and we happily resumed getting more for our dollar. Fast forward to September of this year. Artie T was fired based on the voting board members accusing him of, quote, exercising his own unfettered discretion in company decisions. He has asked to be reinstated, claiming the board acted unlawfully. They are now suing each other. What a mess. Before Bentley alum Gail Huff spent 17 years reporting on WCVB Channel 5 in Boston, she was the girl with a curious hand. In the Digny Figness video seen on V66, I really am talking about Gail Huff just to talk about Digny Figness. I believe there are folks who listen to this podcast that have been around the area for a long time that will understand the Digny Figness reference. Gail Huff's husband was briefly a Massachusetts senator. He ran again when the family moved to New Hampshire to try there. He lost. And in 2021, Gail Huff Brown announced to run for New Hampshire's 1st District U.S. House seat. I didn't know this. She lost in that primary to Caroline Leavitt, who lost in the general election to Chris Pappas. Caroline Leavitt was appointed as White House press secretary in 2024. Wow, history. What a rabbit hole. As for the city of Waltham, there is a lot to offer, including Pinot Brothers Inc., owned by Waltham, the city, and the bands own Pinot Brothers. Yes, there is a band, Waltham, the band. They are quite good, and I highly recommend. Pinot Brothers Inc. in Waltham, 12 Taylor Street. I don't get paid for this commercial, but they are my friends, and I have gotten tattooed there. And Pinot Brothers moved their Somerville location to Harvard Square in the Garage Mall in Cambridge. Now, there are things that the city of Waltham does not want to be associated with. Jennifer Martel's murder, for one. But hers was predated by a 2011 triple homicide that is the subject of both The Murders Before the Marathon, a 2022 Hulu docuseries, and the work of writer Susan Zalkin's book, The Waltham Murders, one woman's pursuit to expose the truth behind a murder in a national tragedy. Now, that topic is a whole show. But the crux of this case is, if the triple murder in Waltham on September 11th, 2011, if that was investigated differently, would the events of the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, would that have gone differently? Would it have prevented it? There is strong evidence that has pointed to Tamerlan Tsarnaev, one of the brothers responsible for the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, was involved in this triple murder in Waltham. Okay, Can. Meat worms. The murder of Jennifer Martel exposed the breakdown in the domestic violence response system. There were many missed warning signs, major red flags, but they were ignored or pretended not to exist at all. The treatment of people in domestic violence situations is inadequate at best, countrywide. We have been woefully absent for these people. And this case was one of those hallmarks of a gaping systemic failure that people who are living in violent relationships face. It was Thursday, August 15th, 2013. Most of summer was behind her. Jennifer Martel was at home, which should be the safest place. But there was no safety for her in that home she shared with her 4-year-old child and the man who would kill her. This story is tragic. It's maddening, and it's gruesome. Like so many other cases in this true crime domain, when you try to research Jennifer's case, she becomes just the girlfriend or the victim. You have to look much more closely to even find her name. There are many more news accounts about the perpetrator and his connection to celebrity. But first, I want to take a look at the numbers. Information on how domestic violence affects us from the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year. In the U.S., 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men over the age of 18 have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. People in the transgender community face disproportionately higher rates of domestic violence. Studies indicating that over half of transgender individuals have experienced intimate partner violence at some point in their lives. Almost half of all women, 48.4%, and men, 48.8%, in the U.S. have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. What does that look like? Name-calling, insults, constant criticism, yelling, mocking, placing blame, manipulating, threats, intimidation, gaslighting, behavior that is meant to humiliate that person on purpose. And silent treatment is a tool in the abuser's handbook. And there is something called negging. Subtle insults disguised as flirting, backhanded comments, all part of the pattern of abuse. This kind of abuse is equally as damaging as the physical violence can be. Women ages 18 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. Children witness violence in nearly 1 in every 4 intimate partner violence cases filed in state courts. That's 22%. Approximately 40% of abusers in the home also abuse the children in the home. In 2008, domestic violence was declared a public health emergency in Massachusetts. In a typical day, local domestic violence hotlines receive approximately 19,159 calls, approximately 13 calls every minute. The presence of a gun in domestic violence situations increases the risk of homicide for women by 500%. More than half of women killed by gun violence are killed by a family member or an intimate partner. Jennifer Martel's case is like so many other women who were tied to a relationship through a shared child. Certainly one of the reasons why leaving would be so difficult. Not many people knew what Jennifer was going through. It had to be one of the most difficult things she faced in her adult life. Her case is like so many other women's stories who were trying to see a way out. It is like so many other stories where the victim is lost in the headlines of the case. What it is not like is how her murder at the hands of her live-in partner and the father of her young child, that he was the son of a beloved voice of Red Sox Nation. Now, Fenway Park is like a church around here, and there's a lot of hero worship. Jennifer Martel was 27 when she was murdered. She had a plan for the next phase of her life. A phase that did not include Jared Remy. Jared Remy, the son of Jerry Remy, Remdog as he's known, a beloved figure here, part of the Red Sox establishment. But let's talk about Jennifer. Born Jennifer Lynn Martel on September 19, 1985, she was one of 2 kids born to parents Patricia and Brian Martel Sr. in Flagstaff, Arizona. The family would move back to Massachusetts and lived in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton. Jennifer graduated in 2004 from Taunton High School. She went on to get an associate's degree at the University of Phoenix and was pursuing her goal to become an elementary school teacher and had enrolled at Framingham State College. She worked at Market Basket and had transferred to a store in Burlington, working as an assistant front-end manager. Jennifer was devoted to her 4-year-old daughter. She also took care of her 2 dogs, Reddy and Foxy. I wish I could find out what kind of dogs they were, but I had no luck. Jennifer was remembered as kind and friendly and outgoing. She loved her friends and family and was a wicked big sports fan. In the days leading up to her murder, she told her mother she was planning to end the relationship and leave for good. This was shared by her parents, Patty and Brian Martel, in the Boston Globe in 2014. Jared Remy had a history of violence going back decades. 2 nights before Jennifer's murder, we learned just what happened, in her own words, in a 911 call to Waltham police on August 13th. I thought about not playing the audio from the call, but it has much more impact when you hear what was going on in the home that night, because we know what happened to Jennifer 2 days later. This is an excerpt of a news report in 2013 from WCVB News Center 5 in Boston.
Jared, did anything physical happen?
No.
There wasn't any pushing or shoving?
No pushing or shoving.
Jared Remy on the phone with Waltham police just 2 days before he murdered Jennifer Martel. He claims he did nothing wrong. Then Martel takes the phone and describes the assault.
This is Jen. I'm the one who has to call the cops. he took the phone away from me. He took me and slammed my face against the mirror.
Martel then explains how serious her situation is with Remy's rage.
He's a very violent person who's on a lot of medication who might need some serious help because he is very angry and has a very bad temper, and he has a history of hitting people and domestic abuse. He's getting to the point where he just can't control his temper anymore.
Karen Anderson reporting for WCVB News Center 5 in Boston. And there it all is. He's downplaying everything, and Jennifer Martel is saying, don't believe anything he says. He's very violent and has a long history of treating women like this. It sounds like another call we've heard, one that came from Nicole Brown. Nicole Brown on a call to 911 on October 25th, 1993, just 8 months before she was murdered. Now, I'm not going to play that audio, but she says, can you get someone over here now? He's back, please. He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. He showed up again. Could you just send somebody over here? He's in a white Bronco. First of all, he broke the back door down to get in. He's fucking going nuts. He's going to beat the shit out of me. Nicole Brown's case is well documented. She kept photographs of at least the physical abuse at the hands of her husband. You can't photograph verbal abuse. Jared Remy was arrested and charged with assault and battery against Jennifer. She was granted an emergency restraining order that night and would be able to extend that order on Wednesday, August 14th, at the arraignment in Waltham District Court. When Jennifer did not appear in court, that restraining order expired. The prosecutor did not seek bail and released Jared Remy on personal recognizance in an open assault and battery case. First, though, we have to understand why Jennifer did not attend that arraignment the day before she would be stabbed to death in the presence of her 4-year-old daughter and her next-door neighbors. History is well documented as to why many women don't appear in abuse cases like this, for fear of retribution, more abuse, how they might support themselves without this person and their children, pleas of that partner, and in Jennifer's case, from the Remys. Jennifer's neighbor in the townhouse right next to her witnessed the attack. She tried to step in, as did another neighbor, to save Jennifer. Christina Hill wanted Jennifer to go to that arraignment. Christina Hill told Casey Sherman of the Boston Herald at the time that it was Phoebe Remy who pleaded with Jennifer not to pursue criminal charges against Jared Remy on the day before she was killed. It was also Christina Hill who paid for Jennifer's funeral. Patty Martel, Jennifer's mom, she doubled down on that message, saying it was Phoebe Remy who talked Jennifer out of going to court. The Remy family denies this. There was a lot at stake for Jennifer, and part of her may have thought she owed the Remy family something. Maybe 2 months before she died, the Remys helped Jennifer get her first new car. Jared Remy's mother said, according to the Martels and what they told the Boston Globe, that filing a complaint against Jared Remy would ruin his life. Oh, that is rich. The Martels also shared that Phoebe Remy, Jared's mother, told Jennifer that they would protect her. It's very possible Mrs. Remy believed everything that she was saying. But the history of violence perpetrated by her own son, crystal clear. Jared Remy's mother was witness to it. We'll get to that. Stay with me. Please support crime of the truest kind. There are a number of ways that you can do that. Subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow the show at Crime of the Truest Kind. Share the show in your Facebook groups, in your Reddit threads. Word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about new podcasts. Come to a live show. Next one, Thursday, October 23rd, The Burren, Somerville, Massachusetts, covering crimes of Camberville, from the alleys to the ivies, a history of crime, murder, and mystery. Get tickets at crimeofthetruestkind.com. Subscribe to the email list. Become a patron on Patreon, 4 tiers starting at just $1, and ad-free episodes. You can drop a tip in the jar. You will be giving the dogs a bone. Everything at crimeofthetruestkind.com. Thank you. Jennifer felt trapped, afraid to leave for the safety of her and her daughter, and afraid what it would mean as she was getting financial support from the Remys. In a call with WBZ-TV Boston the day after her murder, Patty Martel talked about their last conversation. Jennifer was planning her escape. This is a critical time. We know that danger for someone trying to leave a violent situation increases. Her family and friends were aware of the volatile nature of their relationship. Many were telling her to leave. She knew she needed to, but getting the strength to do that is difficult. Friends and loved ones of someone in an abusive situation cannot just go and remove them. It's not that simple. She had been telling friends she feared for her safety, that Remy was possessive and violent, and she wanted out. On the day that Jennifer died, she had changed her Facebook status from in a relationship to it's complicated. That is not a death sentence. And maybe Remy saw it and it pissed him off. Everything set him off. He had a long history of violence and a trail of victims. I don't like to spend a lot of time on the perpetrators in these cases, but it is important to show in absolute terms how Remy was enabled by the courts, and apparently by his own family. If someone somewhere takes something from this story and save their lives or help someone they love escape a violent situation, well, it's all worth it. The Martel family was outspoken about their experiences with Remy, telling the Boston Globe that when Patty Martel visited Jennifer in February 2013, 6 months before her death, he insulted her family, he degraded her family, he made demands on them, telling them they couldn't eat until he said, and that they had to take mandatory naps. Yeah, that's confounding to me too. It was a miserable experience, and she cut her trip short. She pleaded with her daughter to get out of the relationship. Jennifer reassured her mother, telling her, "I am not in danger or in an abusive situation. I will be fine." And she didn't want to take their 4-year-old daughter away from her father. The Martels did not realize the extent of what Jennifer was being subjected to by living with Remy. I mean, they thought he was a jerk. Maybe that's the polite way they told it to the Globe. But they didn't know what domestic violence really looked like. And for anyone hearing that statement saying, how could they not? Some people don't have that in their lives. Verbal abuse and physical abuse and all the things that come with it, it's not necessarily naive not to know what that looks like. Jared Remy had a long history of violence, dating back to his teenage years in Weston, Massachusetts, where he grew up. In a piece for the Boston Globe in March of 2014, we learn this was a man who got an incredible number of breaks along the way. Judge after judge gave him one more chance. I guess not to ruin his life, right? We know what that's done for the Brock Turners of the world. Hundreds of pages of court files and police records. They laid out his trail of terror. It's essentially a map of his abuse and violence toward 5 different girlfriends, and boys and men who he tormented who were near them. Courts repeatedly let him off with a scolding. He'd promised to stay out of trouble. Did any of them see a dangerous boy who would become a dangerous man? Or are we talking boys will be boys? Because that's been the American way. He was a troubled kid. By what? I could not say. But he grew to be an entitled, angry, violent, smug man who hulked up on steroids. He just didn't turn green, and he was not incredible. Steroids can produce a variety of psychological effects, including hostility. Steroids are known to increase irritability, anxiety, and aggression, and can cause mood swings, manic symptoms, and paranoia. And the more you take, the worse it gets. Information from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, linked at crimeofthetruestkind.com. But that doesn't explain what was going on with a young Remy. He was a menace in his neighborhood, known for throwing rocks. It only got worse as he got older. He was an aggressive child, and all of it predates the steroid use. By and large, the general public who first heard this story when it happened just thought roid rage. As I have learned, he was diagnosed with a form of dyslexia, which does affect learning and can attribute to aggression through frustration. Weston Public Schools would eventually shuttle him off, paying for him to attend the alternative Gifford School in Weston. In the beginning, Weston allowed him to play sports at the public school, but Remy's behavioral problems would cost him. He was met with consequences. He lost the privilege of playing. Then he got tossed from Gifford and had to have a tutor. He was dating a girl from Weston High, and when they broke up, something happened to him. A jealous anger, possessiveness that would stay with him into adulthood came to the surface. The Remy family acknowledged his anger and lack of self-control in a statement that came out sometime after Jennifer's murder. They said they did all that they could do for him. Police reports show in early 1996 that when this girl broke up with Remy, that she and her father wanted to get a restraining order, but they worried that Remy would retaliate. He's 17 now, by the way. And concerned, his father, Jerry Remy, asked Weston police to help his son, quote, understand the seriousness of his actions. This is from a Weston police report, as reported by the Boston Globe. Jared Remy simply did not give a care about any of it, about getting arrested, about a restraining order. Nope, didn't give a good goddamn about getting into trouble. And he didn't give a hot shit about what his father thought either. He continued his terrorizing of the girl and a new boyfriend, making threats to return with a gun and shoot him. That's kind of psycho. He then was sent to Florida to join his father for spring training. When he returned, he set his sights on a new victim, 14-year-old Tiffany Guyette. She changed her name a long time ago, so her privacy is protected. Tiffany loved the Remys. They had nice things, and they gave her nice things. Jared and Tiffany spent a lot of time alone, unsupervised. You know what I say about that. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. By January 1997, Tiffany was 15 and pregnant. This would mark the beginning of the torment that she would experience at the hands of Jared Remy, who was 18. For those of you keeping track, 16 is the age of consent in Massachusetts. And while I'm not entirely sure, I believe it was also 16 in 1996. By this point, Tiffany was staying at the Remys a lot. Okay, so I don't know for certain again, but I bet her family hated it. All of it. Being 15, having an 18-year-old boyfriend, having a baby, staying at his house. Yes, it was a different time, but it was only 1997. I don't know how the family felt about it. Jared's mother began taking Tiffany to her doctor's appointments. As the months passed and Tiffany began to grow, as the baby got bigger, Jared Remy did not like it. He became vocal about it. Verbal abuse was ratcheting up. He was degrading her, belittling her. He didn't hold back telling her he thought she was fat and gross. At one point during her pregnancy, he tried to throw her from a moving car. Fortunately, Tiffany was able to escape at a railroad crossing and ran back to the Remy's house, where she told Mrs. Remy everything that happened. Tiffany wanted to go to the police and report what Jared Remy had done to her, thinking that Phoebe Remy would back her up on this. But instead, Mrs. Remy offered Tiffany the bedroom in the basement, and no one called the cops. Friends who were interviewed spoke of Remy being happy, fun, taking everybody to the movies, and then seeing him beat Tiffany so brutally they were afraid she would lose the baby. It's horrifying to hear these stories about teenagers. Tiffany did have that baby. A little boy arrived in September 1997. And then Tiffany was looking for a way out. She transferred schools, met a new boy. Remy not only refused to allow her to break up with him, he followed her to the boyfriend's house in Lowell and lurked in the dark, armed with a bat, sometimes a knife. We call that stalking. When arranging to transport their son for a visit, Tiffany wanted to meet in a public place. Remy insisted that she come to his house in Weston. Everything is about control with him. She drove to Weston. Almost immediately, they got into an argument. And Remy, he lost it, punching and choking her while she held their little baby. He smashed the windshield and the lights of her car, snapped the wiper blades. The police report noted marks on Tiffany, handprints around her neck. Mrs. Remy witnessed the fight and told police that Tiffany hit Remy back. Really? While holding a baby? And did she just stand there and watch all of this go down? Police arrested Remy on charges of domestic assault and malicious destruction of property. A no-contact order was issued. All right, I want to stop right here and take inventory. This is the second relationship that he is involved in. And the second time that someone either wants to or does take out a restraining order. 2 for 2. Tiffany naively bought Remy's story one day about being sorry and wanted to make it right, only to get her to break the restraining order. This was the beginning of what would become a pattern for Jared Remy's violence and abuse. It was met with leniency by the judge. His lawyer was smart to have Remy admit just enough of his actions, knowing what they had on him, and stop short of a full admission of guilt, making no apology, and then asking to be let off with a not guilty finding and no jail time. The judge rewarded him with the next best thing than an outright dismissal, a continuance without a finding, a judgment that is known in Massachusetts criminal courts as a quaff, probation without a conviction, for beating someone, holding an infant, and destroying their car. I'm still having trouble with the fact that Mrs. Remy was a witness to this. This happened again and again. New girlfriends, jealousy and blame that another man is involved, more violent rage. When their son was still little, Tiffany had gotten sole custody after a 2-year court battle initiated by Jerry and Phoebe Remy, in which a guardian appointed by the court to investigate the child's welfare, Betty Winnick, ultimately sided with the child's mother. It was this guardian who laid out that Remy was not doing what the court had asked, and that his parents were enabling him. Now, Remy's problems weren't limited to anger and domestic violence. He got a job as a member of the Red Sox security team, but lost that after getting caught up in a Major League Baseball steroid investigation. They canned him for dealing steroids after drugs were found in the car of another staffer who said he got them from Remy. Now, Remy denied being a steroids dealer, but he told the Boston Globe that he did, in fact, use steroids. No shit, Sherlock. The way his appearance was changing, maybe borderline obsessed with working out and being at the gym and tanning, it was evident to everybody in his orbit that he was using. He spoke at length at the time with the Globe Spotlight team, insisting he had no need to sell drugs or had ever talked about steroids with Red Sox players. But he defended his own use of illegal steroids, boasting of benching 425 while calling the drug safer than cigarettes and secondhand smoke, telling a reporter, "If I'm killing anyone, it's myself." His life consisted of going to the gym, doing steroids, tanning, staying home, sitting in front of the big screen TV, turned up to a staggeringly loud volume, while Jennifer went to work. He did spend time with their daughter, but he had no job prospects. Not like he wanted one. His parents gave him money. His history of violence saw Remy arrested or brought to court as the defendant in 20 different criminal cases, mostly for charges of violence against or intimidation of women, including the murder of Jennifer Martel. What Jennifer was subjected to was terrifying. He was a brutal man, from verbal abuse, telling her she was fat and disgusting when she was carrying their baby. He did the same thing to his first girlfriend, the mother of his son. Oh, this is beyond red flags. This is like code black. Look out. Somebody is about to blow up your life. Talk to someone you trust. Make a plan to get out. It is not easy to do. Jennifer Martel, she would be walking away from the family that was supporting her. It came with a hefty price, but that family did not protect her. Jared Remy, well, he was a career criminal, never holding down a job for long, and managed to weasel his way out of serious charges and jail time. Jared Remy's lawyer, Peter Bella, has said he does not believe Remy got any special treatment in court. Spoken like a true defense attorney. The things that I have read about the Remy family, they bother me. But I'm not here to talk about how they should and shouldn't have parented. There are signs here that lead to mistakes on their part. Did the family do things to keep it on the down low, keep them out of trouble, and keep their name out of the news? There's definitely some kernels of truth in there. The Remy siblings, he has two, a brother and a sister, they've had their own run-ins with the law. And that Jennifer Martel was somehow convinced to not show up at that arraignment the day before she died, that she did not extend that order of protection at the urging of the Remys, well, that's heartbreaking. What if she had? Would she be alive today? Jared Remy was a tyrant and nobody stopped him. Now, the Middlesex County DA came under fire, and Marian Ryan said the bail recommendation that Remy be released on his personal recognizance was based on information to us at the time. Okay. I'm pretty sure the long history of abuse was information that was available to you at the time also. Now, Jared Remy initially pled not guilty when he was arrested for Jennifer's murder. Somewhere along the line, he had a change of heart. He did not show any remorse for stabbing Jennifer to death in front of their daughter. He was full of rage that night, viciously attacking Jennifer as her neighbor tried to pull him off of her. He did not give a good goddamn that other people were there. He continued to choke and stab her. He wanted her dead. When he was sure that he killed her, he took his t-shirt off and put it over her face and walked away. He knew what he had done. That's what he wanted to do. And he didn't care. He took her life from her in front of people, their neighbors and friends. There was no question who did it. Witnesses were everywhere. And he showed no emotion after. He showed no emotion when the prosecution read the detailed witness account of Jennifer's final moments. When asked if he committed the acts outlined in the statement, Remy replied, "Yes, I did," and goes on to blame Jennifer for her own murder, saying he had always told Jen that she could leave, but not to threaten him with their daughter. That night, Jen had a knife in her hand and threatened him with their daughter. So he had to kill her. His words. Jennifer Martel's life ended abruptly. She wanted to be someone her daughter could be proud of. She had things to accomplish. She did not get that chance. She didn't get to be the school teacher she wanted to be. She did not get to see her daughter grow up. Jared Remy did that to her. He chose for her that day. Jennifer Martel's death forced Middlesex District Attorney Marian Ryan to look at how Remy's case was handled, what mistakes were made, and how domestic violence cases are handled. It's clear prosecutors did not act appropriately on the assault allegations against Remy, including failing to consider the history of domestic violence. A review was conducted, and a full report was released in 2014 by former Essex County District Attorney and Secretary of Public Safety Kevin Burke and Norfolk County First Assistant District Attorney Jean Marie Carroll. D.A. Ryan said that assistant district attorneys in the district courts previously had the discretion to make bail recommendations themselves. Under the new policy, each recommendation in a domestic violence case now requires the review and approval of a supervisor or second prosecutor. More eyes on the case? And in the wake of Jennifer's death, an act relative to domestic violence was signed into law as Chapter 260 of the Act of 2014 that establishes new criminal offenses related to domestic violence. It strengthens protections for victims and enhances law enforcement and judicial responses to domestic violence. It created a new criminal offense for strangulation and suffocation, recognizing these acts as serious forms of abuse. It is a bit scary to think that prior to 2014, before it was written this way, that strangulation and suffocation was not included among acts of violence. It mandates specialized training for police officers and court personnel on handling domestic violence cases, including trauma-informed approaches and victim sensitivity. It requires police departments to develop policies for responding to domestic violence incidences, including procedures for arrest, evidence collection, and victim assistance, and clarifies bail conditions and enhances judicial discretion in setting bail for domestic violence offenders. There are 51 sections, and you can read all of it at the Massachusetts Legislature's website, linked on the episode page at crimeofthetruestkind.com. Jennifer's daughter was 4 years old when she lost her mother, and after some legal wrangling between the Martel family and the Remy family, the Martel family were granted custody. Jennifer's dad, Brian Sr., passed away unexpectedly 1 year ago on October 19th, 2024. Jerry Remy, the Rem Dog as he's known, he stepped away from Sox broadcast when Jennifer was killed. He did return to the job, but his health issues took him away again. He died October 30th, 2021, lung cancer. This is not an indictment of the Remy family. It's hard to hear over and over and over again that Jared Remy faced no accountability, no consequences for his brutal violence and the way he not only mistreated women, but battered and abused them and degraded them since he was a teenager. Domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors learned to gain or maintain power and control. Recognizing abuse is the first step. There are resources, and help is available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline. Visit thehotline.org. The phone number, 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. There's a live chat feature, and you can text START to 88788. And in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence. That hotline, 877-785-2020, janedoe.org. We can't help Jennifer, but we can be here for other Jennifers. Thank you for listening. I do hope to see some of you who are local at the Somerville show on Thursday. There will be new shows in the new year. Count on that. We will do some live streams as well on Patreon at the end of October, Wednesday, October 29th. We'll talk about crime cases. Whatever you want, send an email, crimeofthetruestkind@gmail.com. Thank you for being here. Be safe and lock your goddamn doors.